Guys, we had another thunderstorm here tonight, so we are still. This is Arvind. We're still waiting for the rest of the students that are here physically in the class to come in. So we'll give it a couple of more minutes and then start the class. Yeah. Hey guys, I'll quickly computer. So give it a couple of minutes and you'll see. I'll start the session again. Okay.
I'm sorry. What again? I came late.
Okay.
Give us 5 minutes.
Give us 2 minutes. We're switching between computers. So I'm logging off from this computer.
Okay.
Satish is back on it.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
అది ప్రొఫైల్ సబ్మిట్ చేసి పెడతాం.
చేసాను అది సింపుల్ స్ట్రైట్ ఫార్వర్డ్ చేస్తాను కొంచెం
ఇంకా 4 మీటర్లు రెండో సెంటెన్స్ లోనే చెప్పేశాడు. నేను ఎక్కువగా So I'll quickly wrap up today because the weather is not good.
Yeah,
I'll just leave early.
so no,
It's not, I guess.
body.
Yeah, like maybe I really don't know what went wrong with the climate.
We thought you would cancel it, but we waited for the email and
We can try it if it works.
no, sometimes like the trees fell down and light goes. Yeah,
We never knew.
last time when I came, like all the traffic lights they were like
For the first day.
yeah. So you never know, like when you're driving in, like when they say like severe thunderstorm, it could be anything.
So next time I'll take.
Yeah, the password for the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi don't require right away, right? Today. Do you require it?
Yes, only like because I made the test case from our No problem.
Yes, sir. Just to open the email.
All right, guys. Yeah, sorry. Fine. So yesterday we have seen different things. Like, what did we see yesterday? We were talking about the defect life cycle. So within the defect life cycle, every defect would start with a new status. It moves on to open, then it moves on to in progress if the defect is valid and it is accepted by the developer. It moves on to in progress. From in progress, it would be moving on to fixed status. That means the developer has worked on that particular defect, and once he is done with the what do you say? Once he is done with the fixing of the code, then he would move the status to fixed. Then it's the tester's responsibility who has to take that particular fixed defect and he has to retest with that particular defect. If at all his retesting has shown that the defect is properly fixed, then you would be closing the defect. If not, you would be reopening the defect and assigning back to the developer. You know who the developer is now, so it will be very easy. At any point of time, you have another three status that can come into. One can be your duplicate. So duplicate is when same defect or same functionality is being reported by two or more resources. Okay, so then the first defect would be considered as a valid defect, but the subsequent defects that are being reported will be treated as duplicates. Once they are treated as duplicates, then that would be indirectly rejected. All right. Other than that, you may have the deferred status, right? So when will be the defect getting deferred? If at all there is a dependency, when you see that there is a dependency existing between both the defects, a defect will be deferred based on the root cause of that particular defect.
The second defect.
Yeah, second defect or the first defect. In fact, first defect can also be deferred based on the second. It totally depends on the situation or on the functionality. Okay, so the defects can go with a differing status. So basically, differing status is given when you find a dependency, right? And apart from that, you may have a hold status applicable to the defect. So hold is when the developer or even you can say the tester needs more information from the business analyst over a particular requirement, then the defect can go on hold. Right. So these are all the different status that a defect can have. This is how the defect life cycle would be. The initial status of the defect would be new, and finally, every defect has to be closed by the time of the releases. Right. And defects has got two more important things. One is severity, and the other one is priority. Severity is where severity is assigned based on the critical disturbance of the functionality, right? How complex functionality was getting disturbed by this particular defect, or how critical the defect is, what damage it has caused to the application. That is what severity is, right? How quickly this particular issue needs to be resolved is nothing but the priority. So these are classified in that manner, severity and priority. Every defect will be having a severity and priority, and always severity will be assigned by the test engineer, because we are the one who are working on the application. We know what critical features is not working as expected. Based on that, we can assign the severity for a particular defect. Then once you report a defect, based on the requirements, based on the deliverables, the test lead may assign the priority, or he may even ask you to assign the priority. It totally depends on the confidence level of the test lead, whether to route the defects directly from you or from him. Okay, clear? So this is how your defect life cycle is. Now today we'll concentrate majorly on the real life working environments. Okay, today we'll majorly concentrate on real life working environments. Now within the real life or within your work life, you'll be finding three different environments mainly. Development environment. This is your first environment where you would see the developers working on this. Right, developers will be working within the development environment. So what do? Here they are the one who is supposed to implement the code for the requirement. So what do? They implement the code. I mean, write the source code. Okay, directly you can say a source code will be getting implemented here for the functionalities. Now, once they are done with the implementation of the code and every functionality is being implemented, what would they do? They are going to ask the testing team to test this particular functionality. Okay, now to have a testing activities initiated, you are not supposed to enter into development environment and do the testing activities. So you'll be having a QA environment or indirectly a testing environment, a separate environment. You'll be having a separate environment called as QA, okay, where you'll be testing the things. But now, in order to do the testing activities, I do not have anything over here. It's an empty environment for me, right? Let's take the code is as A. The entire functionality that is being implemented by the development team is this one. This is the entire piece of functionality that is being implemented by the development team. But if you see the testing environment, I do not have anything applied here. It's a blank environment or an empty environment without any data. I cannot test on an empty environment, right? Now what needs to be done? The code or the executable part of that particular code has to be pushed into your QA environment, right? Has to be pushed into your QA environment. So here you will see the team called as, let me highlight this. Okay. You will see a team called as configuration management. There would be another team called as configuration management. You'd be having another team called as configuration management who would be picking who is responsible for the code deployment activities. So what configuration management does? Configuration management does for the build that is getting developed by the developers, development environment. If this build is ready, this is the build. Build is nothing but a set of functionalities for which the developers has made the code, right? So this they have created a build. Okay, let me write it. This is the build. Now what configuration management has to do? They have to check the development environments. Is there any build available, any fresh build that is available? If that build is available, then the configuration management duty is to deploy the build into QA environment. They have to deploy ahead. So this is called as your build deployment. So what do I mean by build deployment here? Pushing the code from the development environments into your testing environment. Why this is necessary? In order to initiate your testing activities, you need to have that particular build within your environment. Okay? Making sense? Not making sense? What is causing you not understanding?
So the developer they will write the code for that particular application, and once they said like we are done with the coding part, so another team like configuration management team, they will take that thing. And will they check or like they just make sure with the developer and like deploy to the QA?
So what configuration management team does? Now it is the responsibility of the developers to create this particular build. Build is nothing but your executable part of your code. Okay, so they are going to create this particular build. Once the build is ready, the configuration management team checks whether you have all the files that are corresponding to the build or not. They're not going to check the executables of that particular build. They're going to check whether all the jar files or the GIL files, everything are in place or not. That's it. Other than that, they don't check anything. Okay, so what they're going to do, they're going to deploy that particular build. Indirectly, they're going to take a copy of that particular build and put it in your QA environment. They're not moving entirely. They're just taking a copy of that particular build and creating the same build within your QA environment. Make sense? Right. And why is this necessary? For the testing activities that needs to be initiated on this particular build. All right. To have the testing activities initiated on this particular build, you have to have a deployment activity that needs to be done. All right. Now, once the build is deployed, what the QA team has to do? The very sorry.
You have to test them.
No. Okay, we have to test, but the very first testing that we would continue or we would perform whenever the build deployment is done is smoke testing. Okay. The very first testing that we would be doing is smoke testing. Now, what is the main reason to perform this particular smoke testing? Right. If at all a build is deployed, what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to check whether all the high level functionalities are available and are working fine or not. We have to ensure that whether all the high level functionalities are available so that we can perform the in-depth level of testing on that particular build. For example, I have a member login page. Okay, there is a build deployment that has happened for the enrollment. Okay, for the enrollment, they have a login page here. If at all you are enrolled, you can log in into the application and check all the details. Okay, now here the build has been deployed. So in order to have a login functionality, you have to provide the username. You have a field of username. You have a field for password, and there is a submit button. Alright, there is a submit button. These are your text entry fields. Alright, this is my submit button. Okay. Alright, now here I can provide my username, I can provide my password. As and when I provide my username and password, what should happen? My submit button should get enabled. When it is enabled, I'll be able to click on that particular submit button so that it would take me into the application if my credentials are authenticated successfully. Or valid credentials. If I have given with the valid credentials, then the application has to send me into that or take me into that particular area where I am supposed to navigate. But I was seen with an environment that is being recently deployed by the configuration management team, and I have the username and password where I was able to input the text within it. Though I gave the username and password, my submit button is not enabled. It's still disabled. Will I be able to enter into the application?
No.
I'll not be able to enter into the application. Now, can I perform any other testing activities apart from this?
Because you have to go through.
I have to go into the pages, only then I can initiate my next level of testing activities. So here I'm stuck at the initial page itself. Now do you think that there is a necessity to accept this particular build? Making sense? Is it sounding good to accept this particular build as a valid build? When you're not able to test the next areas, next functionalities of that particular page or the application, do you think it's a good thing to accept this particular build?
No, we don't know.
It's a waste of time for us, right? You cannot simply fail all the test cases. It's a waste of time, right? So what you can do, you can directly reject this particular build. Sorry. You can directly reject. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. You can directly reject this particular build. Right. Now, this is why we have to perform this smoke testing. So as and when a build is deployed, just ensure that whether your high level functionalities are appearing properly or not, so that you can test the lower level functionalities, or in-depth testing can be performed on a particular application. To have this done, you're going to perform a smoke testing activities. Okay, clear?
So this is the smoke test.
This is smoke test. The smoke test that I have done here, it has given me a confidence over the build, and I could clearly say that my build is not a valid build. I'm rejecting that particular build based on this particular situation. All right. Any
You
questions?
have to test first or just you have reject?
Without testing, how will you reject, sir?
I mean, you say like smoke testing, that's what.
Smoke testing, yeah. I'm talking about smoke testing. So when I say smoke testing, you have to perform a testing activity, right?
We have to test first and then we have to reject.
It should be the same way. How will you reject without having a testing done?
I mean, when we saw this page, then we have to reject first or?
How will you reject? See, unless you enter username and password, you will not be seeing whether it is enabled or disabled.
Okay.
That means when you enter something into it, that means you are providing some data. That means you have started testing it. So without testing it, how will you get a confidence to reject the bill? On what basis you will be rejecting the bill? How would you prove the developer that this is the reason why I'm rejecting the bill? Making sense?
So this kind of test is like a smoke test, right?
Yeah, this is a smoke test. Check whether your high level things are appearing properly or not. Then you would go with the detailer level.
Even like you look at the logo and like everything.
Logos and everything is not your high level things. Right? They are not your high level things, right? You have to check your functionality. Logo is not a functionality. I'm talking about functionality. Login is a functionality. Making payments is a functionality. Enrollment is a functionality. Logo will not come as a functionality. You can raise a defect for logo. Logo is not blocking you in doing any other activities, right? Making sense?
Okay. Functionality.
Functionality. Logo is not a functionality. Logo is a static image that will remain as it is. Right? It's not a dynamic thing.
Okay.
Making sense? Fine. So you are going to perform your smoke testing activities. Okay. So what you are going to decide from your smoke testing, with the help of your smoke testing, you are going to decide whether the build can be accepted or rejected. Build acceptance is decided here. Alright, once the build is accepted, then you are going to perform the component testing. What do I mean by component here? A component is nothing but a piece of requirements. Do I have the complete set of healthcare application delivered here? No, I'm delivered with only enrollment part. So what would I do? I would start testing this particular component called as enrollment. and my testing activities would be initiated. All my testing activities would be initiated on this particular enrollment. I'll check each and every functionality. I'll see whether the functionalities are working properly or not. And if the functionalities are working properly, that means my expected result is equal to the actual result. In that scenario, what would I do? I would give a status as pass. If not, the status would be failed. If at all I'm failing a particular case, then I have to bring it to the notice of the developer. I have to ensure that a proper defect is being raised and it is notified to the developer. Now here there can be a possibility that we'll be getting defects. There will be a possibility. You cannot say build without defects. That means it throws an what do you say, incorrect testing done or a poor performance of a test engineer. A test engineer never or should never say that there are no defects in the application. If you say, then you're wrong. You have to learn things from the first. On the very first build that is getting initiated, it will not be 100% correct. Damn sure 100% lock it. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to raise the defects. It's with all my 8 years of experience, I'm giving you this information. Okay. Right. So what you're going to do, you're going to raise the defects. Okay. Here, at the time of your component testing, you're going to raise the defects. Now what the developer has to do, the developer has to fix these particular defects, right? That means he has given this particular piece of code. This code requires a correction because there is something which is not going according to the requirements that is being stated. Okay, so what needs to be done here? A correction needs to be made on this particular existing build that is being deployed to the QA environment. So what would they do? They would come up with the next build now. Right. They would build a next build which would be having all the defect fixes. This will be having the defect fixes. This would be having all the defect fixes. Now this build is ready. So what the configuration management team has to do now? They have to check this particular build and deploy into QA environment. Now what is the build that is going to be available with QA environment? The second build. Right, you'll be having this build now within the QA environment. Now you got the build. What you are supposed to do? You have to perform again smoke testing because you got a new build. There can be some file that can go missing. So you have to ensure that you have all the high level functionalities that are available within that particular build or not. Right. Then what you have to do? You have to perform a retesting. Because why is this build issued? This build is issued for the defect fixes. Right. So you have to ensure that whether all the defects are fixed properly or not. Making sense? Clear? So what you have to do, you have to perform the retesting. So what do I mean by retesting here? Retesting is nothing but testing with the same process that you have followed earlier or that was followed, or you can say testing the particular scenario with the same steps that was listed out earlier. That is nothing but the that is nothing but called as your retesting. Apart from retesting, you have to perform another type of testing called as regression testing. So what do you mean by regression testing here? Now let me take a situation. Right, let me take a situation I have a payment page. Okay, I have a payment page, and payments can be initiated with any of these particular functionalities. Right, checkings account, saving account, credit cards. Under credit cards, Visa card, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. These are my valid credit cards that can be accepted. Apart from that, debit card functionality is also present. Okay, so if I have to make a payment to any of my insurance, I can choose any of these particular payment methods. I can go with a checking method, I can go with a saving method, I can go with the credit cards, I can go with the debit cards. Okay, now we have raised a defect. Assume that I have raised a defect that is corresponding to checkings account, saying that when I issue my account number and the routing number, a valid account number and a valid routing number, okay, these payment details are not getting saved within the application, whereby I'm not able to make the payments with the help of my checking account. But I could do the same thing with my saving account. For saving account also, you have to provide your accounting number and you have to provide your routing number, right? Okay. For saving account, it is working perfectly, but checking account, it is not working perfectly. So I have raised a defect stating that my payment functionality is not working perfectly with my checkings account. Now developer has fixed this particular issue. Okay. Now what you do? You would perform a retesting. So once you perform retesting, what you do, or once you start retesting, what you do? You try to give accounting number, account number. You try to give the routing number, which is corresponding to your checkings account, and see whether the payment details are getting saved or not, and whether you are able to make the payments or not. You'll complete the entire flow here. Right. Parallelly, you have to also check this savings account. It was working earlier, but the fix that was made on the checkings account should not disturb the existing functionality. Right. Saving account was working earlier. Right. Now this code fix, when I say code fix, he is going to make corrections to the code, right? Corrections to the earlier written source code. So with his correction, we have to ensure that earlier working functionalities are not getting affected. And to ensure that, what we do, we perform a testing called as regression. This is called as your regression testing. Clear? Regression testing is done to ensure that the dependent modules or the dependent functionalities are not getting disturbed with the change in code. Okay?
So even like the test was passed earlier, like we have to do it again.
Yes. Regression testing is done to ensure that the earlier working functionalities are not getting disturbed with the current code changes. Okay, that is why we would go with the regression testing activities. Okay, now any of these particular phases, we may have defects, right? If we still have, because all defects cannot be fixed at one point of time, at a single point of time. There can be some defects that can be reopening, right? You have to notify the developer again. What would developer do? Developer again fixes that particular defect. He would be giving you another build. The same build is going to get deployed by the configuration management team into your QA environment. What would you do? You perform retesting and regression testing. And then what would you do? You certify the build. When I say certify, you're going to give a approval to that particular build that yes, this particular build can be deployed into production. Production in the sense alive, or it can be pushed for the next level of things. Okay, so we are the one who are going to give this sign off or certify a particular build. Okay, so on doing all these activities, we are going to give a sign off or the approval to that particular build. Once we approve a particular build, what configuration management team does? The configuration management team would deploy that build into another environment called as your production environment. Right, it would be a production environment. Okay, now what do the configuration management do? Configuration management team deploys this particular build into your production environment. The same build. Now, which is the build that needs to be deployed? Second build. Why second build? Because second build has got all the defect fixtures, right? So this build will be deployed into the production environment. On deploying this particular build into the production environment, the testing team has to perform another testing called as a sanity test. Sanity testing needs to be done on the production environment now. So sanity testing is nothing but a high level regression testing. Okay, because you have placed your components within the production and you have to ensure that all the functionalities are working properly, all the high level functionalities, every what is a cursory movements, everything are working properly or not. That is what you have to do, and that testing is initiated on the production environment, and that is nothing but called as your sanity testing. Smoke testing is done to ensure whether you can perform, whether you can initiate further levels of testing or not. But sanity is a high level of regression testing that is done when the build is being deployed into your production environment, because this is the environment which is going to be utilized by our customer, and he should not feel or he should not be seen with any defects. Right, there can be some defects that can drill down into this particular production environment due to this particular deployment process. All right, we have to ensure that this deployment is not causing any changes to the existing functionalities, because the environment is different, the box is different. Development environment is one particular box, QA environment is another box, production environment is another box. The boxes are different. When you're moving something from one box to another box, there can be a chance that you may be missing something. Alright, because of that particular deployment process, the configuration management team may miss some files. If you miss some files, there would be some functionalities which may not work properly. Right, and when you give something to the customer, and if something is not working properly within it, the customer will definitely come back to us, and it will throw a poor performance of testing team. They will not ask anything to the development team. They'll directly come to the QA team, because we are the one who has certified that particular build. So they will directly come to us. On what basis you have certified the build? How did you pass this particular criteria or this particular requirement? They would be definitely questioning us. So to be on a safer side, what we do, as in when something is being deployed, you are going to perform a sanity testing on it.
So is there like different team for like smoke testing, component testing,
No.
or sanity testing, or like
Only we. You will not be having different set of teams. It's the same QA team who would be working on all these activities. Okay. Any questions so far in the process from anyone? Clear? All right. So the next set of things. Okay. The next set of things. So what do we have? Yes, we have deployed the build. Now this is a small component that we have released. Now I have a billing component that is coming through. Again, I have to follow the same process. Right. Again, I have a claims component. Again, I have to follow the same process. Now, a billing component needs to be integrated to your enrollment component. That means two modules has to have a interaction. So what kind of an interaction that you would be having from a billing component to a claims component? Let's say this one. I have this as my billing module. I have this as my enrollment module. Or component. Module are nothing but a component. Alright, likewise I have enrollment module or component. Alright, now what will you be having within the enrollment? You'll be having all the member details and everything, right? You're going to enroll into a particular application, you'll be giving all your member details, your date of birth, everything. All right, your coverages, existing coverages or now coverages, any surgeries, your registration type, that whom you wanted to get covered with, what is the product that you're choosing with, everything would be given within this particular enrollment registration page. On registering, what would you have? You would be given a code, right? Yes, this is the amount that you have to pay every month. For the product that you have chosen, based on the eligibility criteria of your product according to your age and the existing things that is taken, underwriting terms that is taken into consideration, the code that is generated per month is $150. Sorry. The code that is generated is $150. Now what you have to do? You have to make a payment to get covered. So when you have to make a payment, what needs to happen? What you will do here, you have a pay now button here. Alright, so once you click the pay now button, it has to redirect you to this particular billing page. Now within this particular billing page, what are all the details that needs to be transferred or moved from your enrollment? Your member ID. This payment, this $150 should be corresponding to the same member who is billed for it. For example, if the member ID is as 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, the member ID has to be the same here as well. Member ID has to be the same. The details, the name details, DOB details, and more importantly, the amount has to be the same. So what is happening when you are integrating both the modules? You have some set of data that is flowing from one module to the other module, right? You have integrated both the things. Now what you have to ensure? You have to ensure that the communication between the integrated modules is happening properly or not. So basically, what would you test as part of your integration? You're going to check the integrated areas whether the movement of data from one module is happening, or when from one module to another module is happening properly or not. And this kind of testing is nothing but called as your integration testing.
So when integrating like two modules.
Two or more modules. Do not stick to only two modules.
I mean like
Yeah.
two or more.
Whenever you are integrating two or more modules, you have to ensure that you're getting the same thing. Right? Now, I have the claims module also. Yes, my claims module is also ready. My entire project constitutes of this billing module, enrollment module, and a claims module. I even have the claims module ready. What would I do? I would even or integrate this particular claims module. So how would the claims module will work? Yes, whenever a claim is raised, it has to check with the enrollment. Is the claim corresponding to an enrolled person, and whether this particular enrolled person has made the premiums regularly. Is he going to get the claim for the period for which he is paid or the period for which he is not paid? So this communication, the claims module is going to communicate to both the modules. So here also you would be performing the integration testing. Now once all the three are integrated, what did you get, or what are we going to get? We are going to get the complete system, right? Till now we had part systems, part of the systems, right? Now when all the modules got integrated, what did you have, or what are you going to have? You are going to have a complete system. Till now you are doing a component level testing that is initiated to only that particular piece, or you have performed integration testing. You have checked the integrated areas and everything, but now you have got the complete system. On this system you have to perform a testing. That kind of testing is nothing but called as your system testing. Testing the system as a whole is nothing but your system testing. Is that clear?
All the modules.
Yeah. So system testing the system as a whole is nothing but your system testing. Now within your system testing, you would be doing an end-to-end testing here, end-to-end testing activity. So what do I mean by end-to-end testing activity? Right from the enrollment to the process of claimings. That is one kind of requirement for me. I'm trying to enroll a particular person. I'm trying to make a payment for that particular person. I'm raising a claim for it. I'm going to raise a claim for a particular coverage, whatever the coverage that I had. So this would fall my entire requirement, one set of requirement, that is an end-to-end requirement. Another way, I'm trying to raise a claim for a person who have not paid any payments, but he is an active member. Okay, so what would I do? I would enroll a person. I will not make a payments, but I'll try to make a claim. This is another end-to-end functionality. Making sense? Right? So another functionality. I'll be enrolling a person. I'll be making a payments, but I'll be trying to make a claim that is not as part of the payments that I have made. I'll be making a claim for some period for which I have not made my payments. That is another set of requirement. That is another set of end-to-end requirement for me. So that kind of a testing is nothing but called as your end-to-end testing. End-to-end, you're taking a particular requirement, you're starting from the first part of the requirement and coming to the end part of that particular requirement. So that kind of a testing is nothing but called as your end-to-end testing. Okay, clear? Right. So once you perform all these kind of testing activities, so what you need to do, you are giving an approval based on the fixes and everything. If all the defect fixes that you have given to the developer, and if the developer has fixed everything, so what would you get? You would get a build with all the defect fixes. You would be retesting it, regression testing done, and once everything is done, what would you do? You would give a sign off. I mean, you would certify the build. On certifying the build, what would the configuration management do? They would be pulling out the recent build that has got all the defect fixes and everything working fine. Whatever the build that is certified, sorry.
And then they will send to product.
Yeah. Whatever the build that is certified, they're going to pick that particular build and push it into your production. Now, once the build is pushed into your production, what we have to do? We have to check the sanity testing. Okay, there's a question. So on other testing, we are not reaching till end. What do I mean? What do you mean by other testing, Sunita? See, if I take a component like enrollment as a component, I'll be able to complete my requirement that is corresponding to enrollment itself, right? So I'll be able to do an end-to-end testing. I'll be doing an end-to-end testing that is corresponding to only enrollment, or I'll be doing an end-to-end testing that is corresponding to my billings. I'll be doing an end-to-end testing that is corresponding to my claims. But if all the things are integrated and if I have to perform an end-to-end testing for a particular requirement, then I have to start right from the enrollment, then go towards billing, then go towards claim. So at any point of time, you will be performing an end-to-end testing. Okay, fine. Now, yes, the certified build has been deployed into the production. As part of your QA activities, what would we do? We would perform a sanity test to check whether all the high-level functionalities, the cursory movements, everything is appearing properly or not. Now, yes, you have deployed into the production. That means into the customer side. Okay. Now, customer will not blindly accept the things that is given by the system test people. He will not blindly accept it. What would he do? He would employ his own resources at his end to have a testing done, testing initiated. Okay, and that kind of a testing is nothing but
User acceptance.
called as UAT testing.
User acceptance.
Yes, user acceptance testing. Okay, he would be employing his own resources. We are not going to do that particular UAT test, but there would be another team, and that team is being employed by the client, not by us, not by our vendor. There would be a separate team who would be testing the same thing that we have done, but they would be doing the testing activities according to the business standards. They would be thinking according to the general user who would be using that particular application. Okay, so that is nothing but called as your UAT testing. Here you have two different levels of UAT testing that is getting initiated. What would they do? You have an alpha test being done, alpha testing and beta testing. Alpha testing and beta testing. So what do I mean by alpha testing? If I say alpha testing, that means this testing is initiated within the development environment. The testing that is initiated, the acceptance testing that is initiated on the development side is nothing but your alpha testing. The testing that is initiated on the production environment is nothing but beta testing. Why do you think that the client is doing both the activities?
So what do you mean by development side? Like they go look the codes and everything?
What is the environment over there? Development environment. They will not check the code. They will check the working functionality of the application. They'll check the application within the development environment. They'll check the functionality within the production environment. They are not checking the code. They're checking the executable part of the code itself. Okay. Now here they're making their testing activities done at both the environments. Okay. So why do you think that the client is supposed to do? Why do you think that he's making both the activities done?
Alpha testing, he wants to make sure if all the functionality is okay or not. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time for everything. For the beta testing, in the production before it goes to the users.
Even it is with the users, there would be a beta testing done.
I think like the alpha testing, they want to see like they put all the component, the developer puts all the component as per the requirement, and alpha testing the functionality of all the components.
No. The reason is, yes, let's say there was an issue that was dragged out with the beta testing that is done. So what would we say? We say that it's an environment fault. We had the things working perfectly in our environment. We directly say that we have worked on that particular requirement and it is working fine with our end. There might be an environment issue that has caused this particular defect. So the client is not ready to accept such kind of thing. So what would he do? Whatever the situation that is repeated on the production environment, the same situation would be repeated on your development environment to check whether the same defect is reproducible in both the areas or not. Makes sense? That is what the customer would do. The customer or the end user. That's the main reason why they go for testing activities that is initiated on two different environments. So far the testing environments, the testing is initiated only in the testing environment, but the build is being deployed from the development environment. So they should not say or they should not complain that this environment, there was some files that are missing from the development to the production and that is why you are seeing this. They should not say, a team should not give such kind of an answers. And to get the client, to have this particular things done by the client, what would they do? They initiate the testing activities at both the environments. Now I'm going to show you a particular application which is beta application that is still in live. Users are able to use that particular application. And most of you might have seen Yahoo Messenger, which was the beta version that was released initially. Right. Most of the Microsoft operating systems, they release the beta versions first and then they will go with the complete set of versions. So why do you think that they are going to give you the beta versions? Beta versions are for the technical problems that can drill down at the customers, at the user's end. There can be multiple situations where a particular action may not be happening in the same way as it is supposed to do. Alright, so they would be tracking, they would be constantly monitoring all those particular things. So I'll be showing you one. See this particular message. What is this particular message saying? There is a new UK visa application website. We are testing it. It is designed to make the application process simpler and clearer. They have clearly given that particular beta instructions. And it is being testing from 1 year. More than a year from now. Still the application is in beta. Okay. Because they are trying to track from all the user behaviors. A user may be using this, the same application will be used from people across the world, and the environments are different. Their bandwidths are different. The operating system that they use are different. The language that they choose are different. So what they want to track all the things, and they want to have a final application which is perfect without any errors. So till then, what are they trying to do? They're trying to have their beta testing done by the users itself, end users itself. Like for example, I'm trying to make my UK visa application done. So what would I do? I would enroll by myself, I'll register here, then I'll apply for my visa. At the time of any particular process, if the application got crashed out, that means suddenly application stopped responding. They would track these particular things. See, we use cookies to ensure to give the best experience and everything. So they're going to use all these particular details to give you the best user experience. But then if at all something goes wrong, as they are monitoring this particular application, they'll be getting that particular error message and they'll be finding the root cause of it and they're going to fix it. Make sense?
So after going live.
After going live also. That is what the production environment. Production environment is nothing but your live environment. Okay, it's a live environment.
But
Now,
alpha is not live.
alpha is not live. That is what I'm saying. Alpha is done at the development environment. Development environment will never be a live application.
Oh, yes.
Right? So these are the different things that you would see. So any other questions for me before I wind up today? Today I'll wind up very early. Any other questions within the flow? So tomorrow would be our last class for our software testing. Okay. So on Thursday, I need the entire assignment. So I would be going through. Are you doing the review on Friday? It's not on Friday, on Thursday. Thursday would be the complete review of all our test cases, whatever the test cases that you have sent me. And your test cases, I didn't get.
No, you say we have Thursday, that's why I'm still. I'll send it tomorrow. Now I'm going from daily as well.
Cool.
So you are, I think it's like 5 or 6 more. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, guys. See you then. Okay. See you tomorrow. Fine. Thanks, man.